Like, tell me that's not fun for me. It's fun for me. It's like an elevator. You will need these two equations for your test. You'll have to memorize them. They will not be given to you. Okay? You'll need these. But now they go away. Because we're going to start looking at it. This is going to be similar to your test. I don't know how many other ways I can say it. If you can do this, you can do your test. Oh man, what just happened? Stop. Perfect. Love it. Okay. So, I honestly do not need this picture at all to answer these questions. There's two things that I need. One, I need the equation. We are looking for missing stuff. We do not know what OR prime is. OR prime would make it the image. So if we're missing stuff, my equation now reads OR prime equals the pre-image, which is OR, which is 2 3/10, times my R, which is 3. This is how we're finding it. Image equals pre-image times R. That's one of our equations, right? We're finding missing stuff. So OR prime equals 3 times, that gives me 6 9/10 centimeters. Did I lose anybody there? Pretty easy, right? Again, the same thing happens as long as we know that R is 3. If we're looking for OS prime, the prime is a giveaway. The prime tells me that this is what we call the image. So now I have the image equaling the pre-image, which is my original, which is 3 5/10, times my scale factor, which is R, which we know is 3. Multiply. So OS prime gives me 5, regroup the 1, 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. 1 bunny hop, and it's left with 10 5/10 centimeters. Give me a 1 clap if you got it right. 1, 2, 3. That was horrible. I don't think any of you are part of like music class right now. Let's try again. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you guys. McKenna's looking at me like, why are we doing this? Because it's fun for me, McKenna. Did you not have fun with that? Say no. You know why? Because you were so off. You're like, 1, 2. That's right. Okay. Questions on number 1. Relatively easy, yes? Number 2, here we go. Okay. So, I had told you that on this, for some reason, it did not print off, right? But that's a 5/12. I don't need everything else yet. Here's what I need. I need to know that A is at, and now I need to move down a little bit, is at 12 on my X, 8 on my Y. So A's ordered pair is 12, 8. Could I make parallel lines? Sure I could. I don't want to. There's an easier way to do this. Because we know the ordered pair is 12, 8. Once again, we're looking for A prime, which means we take our original and we multiply it by the scale factor, which we have said is 5/12. So I take 12, which is my X, times 5/12. I take my Y, which is 8, times 5/12. This would be a good thing to show me on your test. The more work you can show me, the more chance you have for partial credit. If you miss something, this is a good start, right? So now I've got A prime. If I get my calculator, which I'd like you to do, let's do 12 times 5 divided by 12. Press enter. It shouldn't give us a decimal, it should give us a whole number. Go ahead.
5.
It gives us 5. So A prime's x point is 5. But now we get to the funky one. So if you have a yellow calculator, this is how we're going to do it. 8 times 5 divided by 12. Press second, table, enter. And we should get a simplified fraction. What is that simplified fraction? Come on, I need hands. Everybody's hands should be up because we just did this. Allison.
3.333.
That's a decimal. I want the fraction. Did you do second, table, and enter yet?
10 thirds.
10 thirds. This would be the answer that I'm looking for. Okay, this is the answer that I'm going to look for. But does this help me graph? Yes and no. Most of you do not know how to graph 10 thirds. So to graph, we know that it's over 5. And now I'm going to put in my calculator 10 divided by 3. And that should leave me with 3.33333333333333333. 33333. Okay, right. So I go over to 5. I go up 3. But how many more? Just a little bit. So we know that A prime has to be on this line at 5 and 3 1/3. Make sure that you label. Did I lose anybody there? Pretty easy still, yes? We're still using the formula of pre-image times scale factor gives me the image. You got to know it. Moving on. There's 8 questions. We're now rocked out of 2. Question 3. Very, 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 very similar. What is that? Oh, there's a bulldozer in our backyard. Nice. Or something. I don't know what that is. I don't know construction. A is at x of 3, y of 3. So we've got 3, 3. That's great. A prime. To find the prime, we take the pre-image and we multiply it by the scale factor. And we do that for the y as well. Excuse me. That gives me A prime equals 12, 12. So when I come over, I go to 12, I go up to 12, and we know that when we do this, and it's a dilation on the line, it's going to be exactly the same. Has to be on the line. Make sure that it is on that line and you label it correctly. My question is, does this make sense that A prime is farther away from the origin? Why? Why should A prime be farther away? What in this problem tells me that it should be farther away? Cody.
The scale factor is larger than 1.
The scale factor is larger than 1, which means it is an what? An enlargement. The previous one got closer to the origin because it was a reduction. Question still. So far, all we have done is multiply. Like, this is pretty easy. Again, it's easy for me. That doesn't mean that it's easy for you. It's easy for me. Okay, 4 and 5. The only thing that's different is now it's not on a graph. So we're given E is -2, -5. I'm looking for E prime. So it's -2 times something. It's -5 times something. Well, the something that we take our pre-image and multiply it by, Jupiter, is going to be what? Which is what?
3 halves.
Yeah, 3 halves. So I take -2 times 3 divided by 2. I take -5 divided by 3 times 2. And I'm going to give you 2 options. And I'm fine with either option. Should probably stop using my fingers. That gives me E prime. That gives me E prime. So, -2 times 3 is -6. Divided by 2 is -3. That's going to be the same for both options. This one is -15 halves. If you wanted to leave it as a fraction, I'm good with that. If you want to leave it as a decimal, I'm good with that. Either option is just dandy. Which option would be better if I asked you to graph it? 1 or 2? Good, Katie. 2. 2 would be the better option because we know how to graph 7.5 better than we know how to graph 15 halves, even though it's the same thing. Remember, looks different, has the same value. Those are equivalent. Question so far. Number 5, G is -8, 7. So G prime, we keep -8 and we multiply it. We keep 7 and we multiply it. Pre-image times the scale factor gives me the image. So I'm multiplying these by 3/7. So again, 2 options. And I'm going to need your help because I don't have a calculator. My first option gives me -24/7. If I do -24 divided by 7 in the calculator, I get this big, long answer. Guess what? If it does that, I don't want you to have a second option. You know why? Because I don't want you to write 73 different things with decimals. Leave it that one as a fraction. Does that make sense? It doesn't terminate nice and easily, so leave it as a fraction. 7 times 3 is 21, divided by 7 is 3. Make sure that your first answer is a negative. If you forget the negative, you will be marked wrong. Questions, concerns, problems so far? Okay. Now we get to a little bit trickier stuff. These will absolutely show up on your test. Okay, so scale factor is 12. Scale factor is 12. The first thing I need to do is know what A, B, and C are. So A is at -2, +2. B is at, no, B prime is right. B is at -3, -3. Makes it easy. And C is at, I think, 6, 1, and I don't even need to look. 6, 1. Perfect. Have I lost anybody? Okay. If R is 12, it's an enlargement, which means these should be bigger numbers. A prime, I take -2, multiply it by 12. I take 2 and multiply it by 12. That gives me A prime is -24, +24. If you got A prime correct, did anybody get to this question? Because I know I didn't give you a lot of time. So if you got this one correct, 1, 2, 3, clap. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Ha! Oh, it's like music. It's so much fun. B prime is then going to be -3, -3. No, stop it, Mr. H. What are you doing? It's going to be -3 times 12, comma, -3 times 12. That gives me B prime is -36, -36. This time, if you got this one right, it's going to be 1, 2, 3. 2 claps. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I can't believe you guys are doing this. This is awesome. C prime gives me 6 multiplied by 12, 1 multiplied by 12, which leaves me with C prime is 72, 12. So I'm circling my correct answers. If you got all 3 of those right, it will be 3 claps. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Questions, comments, concerns? I'm going to give you a minute to finish copying it because I still see some of you guys copying it down. This one did not ask you to draw it, which is why we didn't put it, because you're not going to go to 72 on the graph on this one. But the next question does ask us to draw our new points. Maybe. So the scale factor is 2/3. I'm going to put it up here because you can't really see it. So R equals 2/3. It's a reduction, so it should be smaller. The first thing we need to do is find D, which is at -6, +3. E, which is at -4, -3. F, which is at 5, -2. And G, which is at -3, +3. Okay, so we've labeled all those. D prime, E prime, F prime, G prime. We are multiplying all of our original numbers by 2/3. That gives me -4, 2. E prime is -8/3, -2. F prime is 10/3, -2. No, it's not. -4/3. And G prime is -2, 2. Okay? How did I do that? I multiplied each individual number by 2/3. So when I graph this, -4, +2 is the easy one. There's D prime. I label it immediately. E prime. We don't know how to graph -8/3. We don't like fractions. So in your calculator, do -8 divided by 3 and get a decimal. And it should give you -2.66666666. So I go to -2 and a little bit more, because it's not quite 3, but it's more than 2. Then I go down 1, 2. And I put E prime. I'm going to do the same thing with F prime, which is 10/3. That's 3.33333333. How did I figure that out? I put in 10 divided by 3 in my calculator. So to graph, you want those decimals. Listen again. To graph, you want the decimal. So I go to 3.333, and then I go down 1 1/3. So here's 1 and a little bit. There's F prime. G prime is -2, +2. -2, +2. So let's see, does this figure look to be the same shape but different size? Does it appear to be the same shape but different size? Absolutely. That's how we know we did our dilation correctly. Did I lose anybody on this one? Okay, I'm going to keep going because we only have 4 minutes in class, and I want to make sure that I get the last one on the video. Actually, we have 3 minutes. So even if the bell rings, just sit there and let me finish it. You can always watch the video and pause it if you need to. Last one. Okay. And I've told you to put a star next to this one because. So A is at 3, 2. 3 up 2. There's A. B is at 12 up 1, 2, 3. C is at 9 up 12. I don't know why we're putting things away. So, to find A prime, I'm multiplying by 1/3. That gives me 1, 2/3. 2/3 is 0.66666. So I go to 1, up a little bit. There's A prime. B prime. I'm taking 12 times 1/3, which is 4. I'm taking 3 times 1/3, which is 1. Over 4 up 1. There's B prime. C prime, I take 9 times 1/3, which is 3. I take 12 times 1/3, which is 4. Over 3 up 4. And there's C prime. Does it look like the same shape, but a different size? This is dilations. Questions, concerns, problems. You have a test on Tuesday. Please email and ask for help if you need it. Also, if it's still glaring, let me know, because I hope that it's not. Have a great weekend.